Police officers were shocked by what they saw in a small town. In the quiet landscapes of South Africa, a story unfolds that will shake you to your core. In the small town of Orania, where community and connection seem to define daily life, a family's dark secret lurked beneath the facade of normalcy. This is a tale of survival, betrayal, and the unimaginable suffering of two innocent children. Before we dive into this heart-wrenching narrative, take a moment to, like if this story grips you, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more compelling real-life stories that will leave you stunned and reflecting on the depths of human complexity. What you're about to read is not just another story. It's a stark reminder of the hidden struggles that can exist right next door in seemingly peaceful communities. Prepare yourself for a journey that will challenge your understanding of family, trust, and the resilience of the human spirit. The story of Louise Kukima is a haunting tale that reveals the deep complexities of human relationships and personal struggle. Born in South Africa during challenging times, Louise's life was marked by hardship from an early age. In 1940, at just 4 years old, she experienced the profound loss of her father, a man who had been a source of comfort and connection. Following her father's death, Louise's mother remarried, introducing a volatile stepfather into their lives. His aggressive demeanor created an environment of constant tension and emotional distress. The stepfather's behavior systematically undermined the family's sense of security, leaving lasting psychological scars on young Louise. As she grew older, Louise became increasingly determined to escape the oppressive household. Her first attempt at independence came through a hasty marriage to Freddie, a man 4 years her senior. Unfortunately, this union proved to be another chapter of emotional turmoil, replicating the toxic dynamics she had experienced with her stepfather. With her mother's support, Louise eventually separated from Freddie, seeking a fresh start. She soon met Christo Wandermurf, a mechanic who initially appeared kind and stable. Their relationship progressed quickly, and they married, establishing a home in their South African community. The couple welcomed 2 children, first a son named Johan, and 2 years later, a daughter, Poppy. Born on August 9, 2013, Poppy was a strikingly beautiful child, blonde-haired and blue-eyed, who captivated everyone around her. Neighbors and acquaintances often remarked on her doll-like appearance, showering her with admiration. However, the family's seemingly peaceful facade began to crumble. After Poppy's birth, Christo underwent a disturbing transformation. His demeanor shifted dramatically, revealing an increasingly aggressive and unpredictable nature that would soon test the limits of their family's stability. The escalating tension in Louise's marriage reached a critical point in 2014, just a year after Poppy's birth. Recognizing the deteriorating situation, she made the courageous decision to seek a divorce. Christo's verbal abuse had become increasingly unbearable, pushing Louise to take decisive action to protect herself and her children. The emotional landscape of her life had become a minefield of unpredictability and fear, forcing her to seek official protection from her increasingly volatile husband. The divorce proceedings came with strict stipulations designed to safeguard the children's well-being. Christo was granted supervised visitation rights, 3 carefully monitored encounters per month with his children. Additionally, he was permitted weekly telephone communication, with all conversations meticulously recorded to ensure transparency and safety. On the surface, Christo appeared to be a model of compliance, presenting himself as a cooperative and upstanding citizen who respected the court's mandates. However, Louise remained adamant that this outward appearance was nothing more than an elaborate facade. She believed that a darker, more sinister personality lurked beneath Christo's seemingly cooperative exterior. Her intuition and past experiences had made her acutely aware of the potential dangers that could be concealed behind a mask of apparent normalcy. Seeking a complete fresh start, Louise made the bold decision to relocate approximately 500 kilometers from her previous home. Her destination was Orania, a diminutive settlement with barely 1,000 inhabitants, renowned for its tranquil atmosphere and reputation as one of the most prosperous areas in the region. The community was a rich tapestry of cultural heritage, primarily composed of descendants from Dutch, German, and French immigrants who had settled in the area generations ago. The local community embraced Louise and her children with remarkable warmth and compassion. Members of the Dutch Reformed Church played a particularly pivotal role in helping the young family establish roots in their new home. Their support extended far beyond mere welcome. They actively assisted Louise in securing housing and finding employment at the local supermarket. Moreover, the community rallied around her, providing crucial support during the final stages of her divorce proceedings. These significant changes marked a turning point in Louise's life. The move to Orania represented more than just a geographical transition. It was a profound psychological journey towards healing and hope. For the first time in years, Louise began to feel a sense of stability and potential for a peaceful future. The community's embrace offered her and her children a sanctuary, a place where they could potentially rebuild their lives free from the shadows of past traumas. In a compassionate decision that would reshape her family dynamics, Louise welcomed her 14-year-old stepdaughter Marissa into her home. Marissa, eager to contribute and seeking stability, offered to assist with household responsibilities and childcare. The local community, which had already proven instrumental in Louise's journey, supported this integration, helping to formalize Marissa's place within the family unit. Marissa quickly became an indispensable cornerstone of the household. Her calm demeanor and natural nurturing instincts complemented Louise's parenting style, creating a harmonious family environment. She adeptly managed domestic tasks, cooking meals, maintaining the home's organization, and providing attentive care to Johan and Poppy. The younger children's deep affection for Marissa was evident. Poppy would often affectionately refer to her as Mom, highlighting the profound bond they had developed. In 2015, another significant change occurred when Cobus Gamura moved to Orania. The supportive community facilitated his employment at the local supermarket, where he encountered Lisa, a woman with whom he quickly formed a connection. Both carried complex personal histories. Kobe had experienced 2 previous marriages and had children from those relationships. Though his contact with them remained minimal, his ex-wives portrayed him negatively, a detail that remained unknown to Lisa at the time. Their relationship progressed with remarkable swiftness. Within mere months, Kobe and Lisa became engaged, cohabitated, and formalized their union through marriage on November 14, 2015. However, in a shocking and abrupt turn of events, Kobe made the sudden decision to send Marissa to live with her biological father the day after their wedding, a choice that would have profound and devastating consequences for the family. The forced separation struck Johan and Poppy with devastating emotional intensity. They had developed an extraordinarily close relationship with Marissa, who had been their primary caregiver and source of emotional security. Her unexpected removal left a gaping void in their lives, disrupting the stable environment they had known. Instead of experiencing the nurturing attention they were accustomed to, the children now confronted a distant and increasingly irritable stepfather. The psychological impact of these changes became increasingly apparent. Johan and Poppy's emotional well-being began to deteriorate visibly. Their kindergarten teachers observed significant behavioral changes, noting the children's increasing moodiness and withdrawal. Johan, in particular, exhibited deeply troubling signs of distress. He would become visibly anxious during pickup times, frequently hiding in the bathroom to avoid returning home. The staff's observations of Kobe as cold and unfriendly, combined with Johan's apparent signs of sedation, raised significant and alarming concerns about the family's dynamics. Johan's behavioral changes became increasingly alarming to his kindergarten teachers. His reactions appeared unnaturally subdued, with an almost unnerving slowness that suggested potential medical intervention. While suspicions of sedation lingered, concrete evidence remained elusive. When educators raised their concerns, Louise and Kobe dismissed them with dismissive laughter, temporarily pacifying the situation and causing the strange symptoms to momentarily subside. The child's clothing choices became a profound source of concern. Despite scorching temperatures, Johan persistently wore long-sleeve shirts and heavy jackets, creating a protective barrier that raised significant red flags. When teachers attempted to help him remove these layers, Johan would become unexpectedly aggressive, trembling with fear and insisting that his parents would be furious if he undressed. These reactions suggested a deeply troubling possibility. The clothing was serving as a deliberate concealment mechanism for potential physical abuse. Poppy, too, began exhibiting distressing signs of potential mistreatment. Her communication struggles were evident, yet she made desperate attempts to communicate her experiences to her teachers. Strange, inexplicable marks covered her body. Bruises appeared in peculiar locations like her delicate earlobes, with new injuries emerging before previous ones had fully healed. The pattern suggested a systematic and ongoing pattern of abuse that defied typical childhood accidents. When confronted, Louise and Kobe crafted a series of increasingly implausible explanations. They portrayed Johann as inexplicably aggressive towards Poppy, a claim that seemed entirely inconsistent with his documented behavior at school. The teachers found these explanations not just unconvincing, but deeply suspicious. The growing pattern of deflection and manipulation became a clear warning sign of potential domestic violence and child abuse. A concerned neighbor provided critical corroborating evidence of the family's toxic environment. Frequent violent shouting matches could be heard emanating from their home, with one particularly traumatic incident involving Poppy standing out. After hearing Kobe's aggressive shouting, followed by Poppy's heart-wrenching cries, the neighbor later witnessed a deeply disturbing scene. Poppy struggling to exit a truck with a cast on her leg, while Kobe showed complete indifference to her obvious distress. Poppy's suffering became a silent, devastating narrative of childhood trauma. Night after night, her muffled cries would echo through the house, only to be met with harsh demands for silence. Over time, she learned a devastating survival mechanism, crying so quietly that she would become virtually undetectable. This profound emotional suppression represented a horrifying adaptation to an environment of constant fear and emotional neglect, revealing the deep psychological scars being inflicted on these vulnerable children. The small town's silence was shattered by a neighbor's growing unease about the troubled household. One particularly disturbing incident occurred when muffled family arguments were punctuated by a loud, unsettling thud. The following morning, young Poppy appeared with a large, discolored bruise marking her head, her arm held protectively against her body, telltale signs of potential abuse that sent a chill through the concerned neighbor's heart. Confronting Kobe directly proved futile. The father responded with a volatile mix of anger and defensiveness, offering no explanation for his daughter's visible injuries. Louise's rehearsed narrative claimed Poppy had simply fallen down the stairs, but the neighbor's intuition suggested a far more sinister reality. Deeply troubled, they contacted the youth welfare office, hoping for a swift and decisive intervention to protect the vulnerable child. The local infrastructure compounded the challenges, with no full police station and the nearest city's authorities located 40 kilometers away. Reporting mechanisms were frustratingly limited. Undeterred, the neighbor persistently reached out to various local organizations, determined to break through the bureaucratic indifference that seemed to shield the family from scrutiny. A breakthrough emerged in August 2016 when a critical meeting with social services was finally convened. Louise and Kobe were mandated to participate in weekly pediatric checkups and mandatory family therapy sessions, a seemingly positive step towards ensuring the children's safety. Initially, the couple appeared compliant, attending consultations and medical appointments, creating an illusion of improvement. However, the neighbors' concerns continued to mount. Additional troubling incidents were reported, and subsequent communications with social services yielded only vague assurances that the situation was under control. These perfunctory responses masked a systemic failure to genuinely investigate and protect Poppy from potential abuse. Medical professionals also failed in their duty of care. During a subsequent examination, signs of injuries were discovered on Poppy's young body. Despite clear regulations requiring documentation of suspicious marks, the attending physician rationalized his inaction by citing the child's young age, just 3 years old, and her inability to articulate the origin of her bruises. He uncritically accepted Louise's explanation of accidental falls, effectively dismissing potential abuse. In an abrupt and telling development during the fall of 2016, the family vanished overnight. They disappeared without notifying anyone, not the kindergarten, not their neighbors, not social services. Their sudden departure suggested a deliberate attempt to evade an upcoming medical appointment that might have finally exposed the truth about Poppy's condition, leaving a community questioning the effectiveness of child protection systems. The family's sudden relocation to Mama Gally Crawl's farm marked a critical turning point. Louise's biological mother, Johann, was immediately struck by the alarming condition of her grandchildren. Numerous marks and bruises covered their fragile bodies, a sight that filled her with immediate dread and concern. When Johann questioned Kobe about these injuries, the father deflected responsibility, creating an atmosphere of tension and unspoken accusations. Desperate for guidance, Johann sought counsel from the local pastor, hoping for wisdom and intervention. To her profound disappointment, the pastor discouraged any interference, suggesting that Louise, as an adult, must resolve her own family's challenges. This institutional indifference left Johann feeling powerless and conflicted, her maternal instincts battling against the social pressures to remain uninvolved. On October 25th, a month after the family had disappeared from medical radar, Louise arrived at the local hospital with Poppy in her arms. Her demeanor was chillingly composed, reporting a sudden and rapid deterioration in the child's condition. The medical staff immediately sensed something was deeply wrong. Louise's calm was incongruous with the emergency she described. Despite the doctor's most intensive efforts, Poppy's condition was beyond medical rescue. The injuries documented were complex and multi-layered, suggesting sustained abuse over an extended period. Louise's explanation of the injuries, attributing them to a rough hospital journey, rang hollow with the medical professionals who recognized the marks as evidence of prolonged trauma. 5-year-old Johan's behavior at the hospital added another layer of disturbing complexity. He exhibited signs of profound psychological distress, avoiding his parents and whispering cryptic statements. When questioned about his sister, he made a haunting observation that she didn't want to eat anymore, a statement that suggested deeper, more sinister circumstances surrounding Poppy's condition. Recognizing the critical nature of the situation, the attending physician made a pivotal decision. Despite Louise and Kobe's attempts to prevent further investigation, the doctor contacted law enforcement. When the officer arrived, the physician presented photographic evidence of Poppy's injuries, documentation that would become crucial in the subsequent investigation, potentially revealing the full extent of the family's tragic circumstances. The responding officer, a new father himself, was unprepared for the horrific scene that confronted him. The photographic evidence of Poppy's injuries struck him with a visceral sense of shock and profound sorrow. In that moment, the clinical nature of his professional duty collided with the raw emotional reality of child abuse, leaving an indelible mark on his consciousness. Immediate legal procedures were set in motion. Kobe was swiftly taken into custody for intensive questioning, while Louise remained at the hospital under the initial assumption that she might also be a victim of the household's abusive dynamics. Investigators recognized the complexity of the case would require meticulous and comprehensive examination. A comprehensive investigation unfolded, drawing testimonies from critical witnesses, the children's grandmother, the vigilant neighbor who had raised early alarms, and Poppy's biological father were each interviewed, though individual accounts varied in specific details. A consistent narrative of systematic abuse and profound neglect emerged, painting a devastating picture of the children's lived experience. Kobe's interrogation revealed a disturbing perspective. When confronted with the allegations of violence, he attempted to rationalize his actions by claiming the children were difficult to manage, a chilling dismissal of the severe trauma he had inflicted. His responses suggested a deeply ingrained pattern of justifying abusive behavior. Louise's account of the events preceding Poppy's death was equally troubling. She described October 24th with a detached, almost clinical coldness. According to her statement, Poppy had apparently bumped into a cupboard and seemed lethargic the following morning. When Kobe returned home in an aggressive mood, Louise claimed she chose to go shopping rather than protect her children, leaving them in a dangerous environment. Upon her return, Louise reported finding Poppy unconscious in the bathtub, her body cold and lips blue. Instead of responding with immediate medical urgency, they made a callous decision to transport her in the back of a pickup truck, subjecting her fragile body to further potential harm. This reckless action would later serve as their dubious explanation for the multitude of injuries covering Poppy's small form. The most harrowing testimony came from Johan, Poppy's 5-year-old brother. His account to investigators diverged dramatically from his mother's narrative. Johan revealed a much more sinister truth. He alleged that his stepfather had deliberately submerged Poppy's head in water in a brutal attempt to revive her after she became unresponsive. This testimony suggested a level of violence far beyond Louise's sanitized version of events, exposing the true depth of the family's dysfunction and cruelty. Johan's testimony emerged as a devastating narrative of familial betrayal. He described his mother's passive complicity, standing in the doorway, watching without intervention as unimaginable violence unfolded against her daughter. The accumulation of evidence exposed a systematic pattern of abuse that had been tragically overlooked by multiple institutional safeguards. Both Louise and Kobe were subsequently charged with Poppy's murder and the sustained physical and emotional abuse of Johan, their surviving child. The legal proceedings revealed a catastrophic failure of social protection systems. Despite repeated warnings from the concerned neighbor, social services cited bureaucratic complications as the reason for their inaction. No institutional representatives were held accountable for their negligence, highlighting a systemic indifference that had permitted prolonged child abuse. The trial, delayed for a year and commencing in October 2017, would ultimately expose the full extent of the family's horrific dynamics. When the verdict was delivered, justice seemed to crystallize in its severity. Louise and Kobe were convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, with an additional decade added for their sustained abuse of Johann. The young boy's testimony became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. His remarkable courage in confronting his traumatic past resonated deeply within the courtroom. Johann's resilience stood in stark contrast to his parents' complete moral bankruptcy. The judge's condemnation extended beyond the immediate criminal acts. Visibly distressed, the judicial representative expressed profound disbelief not just in the couple's actions, but in their total absence of remorse. Throughout the tragedy of this family underscores the vital role each of us plays in recognizing and reporting signs of child abuse. Social services, neighbors, teachers, and community members all have a responsibility to speak up when something doesn't feel right. One voice, one report, could potentially save a child's life. If this story has moved you, consider learning more about child protection. Share this story to raise awareness, and remember that your awareness and action can make a difference. Every child deserves safety, love, and the opportunity to grow without fear. Like, if this story touched you, comment your thoughts below and subscribe for more real-life stories that challenge us to be more compassionate and observant. Together, we can create safer communities for children everywhere. A final reflection. In the face of unimaginable darkness, Johann's resilience stands as a beacon of hope, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to survive and seek justice.